Hey, just swipe your card like you always do, my sister, Mia, sneered, expecting me to comply without question. I walked out without saying a word. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. That line wasn't the first time Mia had spoken to me like that, but it would be the last time she ever would. I found myself standing in the backyard of a rented lakeside villa, surrounded by twinkling string lights, rented speakers, and 2 catering trucks unloading as if it were a grand wedding. It was Mia's 25th birthday bash, not a milestone, not an achievement, just another excuse to throw a party. She wore the occasion like a crown, her designer heels clicking imperiously on the stone patio. A custom Mia Day banner fluttered behind her in rose gold lettering, likely costing a small fortune. The smugness radiating from her perfect makeup and carefully tousled hair was palpable. There she was, arms spread wide like a queen expecting tribute, her manicured nails glinting in the fairy lights. And then she said it again, just swipe your card like always. No thank you, no question, just a command. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I simply nodded once, tucked my wallet back into my jacket, and walked out through the front gate as if I were going to retrieve something from my car. The security guard nodded politely as I passed, probably assuming I'd be right back. He had no idea this would be the last time he'd see me at one of Mia's extravagant events. I didn't return. I got into my car, shut the door, and sat there with my hands on the wheel, staring at the dashboard as the muffled bass from the party thumped in the distance behind me. It was strange how calm I felt after years of chaos, guilt trips, and last-minute bailouts. I wasn't angry anymore, I was done. But not quietly, not this time. Because if Mia thought she could keep using me like some ATM with a heartbeat, she was about to learn just how expensive free rides could get when the driver walks away mid-trip. I made sure she felt it. Looking back, the signs had always been there, I was just too tired, too guilty, and too loyal to see them for what they were. Mia was the youngest by 7 years, the oops baby who turned into the family project. My parents doted on her like she was the second coming of a pop star, even when she was skipping school, wrecking cars, and blowing through every dime they lent her. On her 16th birthday, they bought her a brand new Audi that cost more than my first year of college. She totaled it 3 months later, driving home drunk from a party. Instead of facing consequences, she received a lecture and insurance coverage. Mom said she was just finding herself, while Dad called it a phase. I called it a warning sign. When they could no longer afford her mess, the torch quietly passed to me. It happened so gradually that I almost didn't notice. Mom would call, asking if I could help out my sister this month because she was going through a rough time. Dad would suggest I loan Mia money for her apartment deposit because she was trying to get on her feet. Both conveniently forgot to mention repayment when the next crisis rolled around. It started small, a gas bill here, textbook she never opened, rent for an apartment she never stayed in long enough to unpack. The first time I paid her electric bill, she sent me a thank you text with a heart emoji. The second time, she called to say thanks. By the 5th time, it was just an expected transfer, no acknowledgement necessary. Each last time turned into another until I stopped keeping track of how much I'd handed over. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to know. I was working 60-hour weeks at a logistics firm by the time she was 22, juggling overtime and side consulting gigs just to keep my financial head above water. Meanwhile, she was club hopping, posting pictures with bottle service and captions like, "Life's short, don't budget." One night, I saw her Instagram story. She was at Lush, the most expensive club in the city, spraying champagne across a VIP booth while her friends cheered. The bottle alone cost more than my monthly car payment. Guess who was paying for that budget-free life? Our parents called it helping family, I called it bleeding quietly. The week before her party, I received a text, "Big night coming up. It's going to be epic. You're covering the deposit, right? It's due Friday. Venue wants $3,000. Just like that, no question mark, no hesitation, just you're covering. I should have said no. I should have said, not this time. Your card will not be covering it. You might want to prepare accordingly. The woman on the phone sounded confused, then annoyed, and finally professional. Thanks for the heads up, she said. We'll handle it. I could hear the resignation in her voice. This was probably not the first time a lavish party had crashed into financial reality. Then came the fun part. I opened my laptop and pulled up the folder I had been building for months. I hadn't planned this moment exactly, but some part of me had known it was coming. The folder was labeled Nia Receipts. Not financial receipts, though I had plenty of those, but evidence, screenshots of Mia's texts where she bragged to friends about milking the sister fund, about how she didn't need a job when she had a walking paycheck. Venmo requests with captions like, "Big sis got me, and don't tell mom." A particularly damning group chat where she told her friends not to worry about bringing money to dinner because Ally will cover it like always, followed by 3 laughing emojis. I sent them anonymously to 2 local influencers I knew were invited, both of whom I had met through work and both of whom hated being used. I included a short message, "Here's your birthday host. Just thought you should know who's really footing the bill." Samira had 50,000 followers and a reputation for calling out privilege, while Trent specialized in local gossip and never missed a chance to spotlight drama. I knew exactly what they would do with this information, and I didn't care. I made one more call before shutting my laptop, this time to Mia, my friend who owed me a favor. She worked for an events agency and knew every photographer and caterer in the Tri-County area. I had helped her land her job after she had been laid off last year by putting in a good word with the CEO, who owed me for logistics work I had done at cost. "You want them to post it?" she asked. "The disaster?" "I want them to show what happens," I said, "when the free ride ends mid-party." She didn't ask questions, she just said, "Done." Mia understood what it meant to pay your own way, to work for everything you had. She had seen me cancel vacations to cover Mia's emergencies. She had watched me check my phone obsessively during girls' nights, waiting for the inevitable crisis call. Then I put my phone on silent and waited. It started with a single notification, then another, then a dozen. By the time I made myself a cup of chamomile tea, something I rarely had time to enjoy, and sat down on the couch, my phone was vibrating non-stop, buzzing so hard it almost slid off the table. At first, it was just the predictable ones, missed calls from Mia, messages in all caps, "Sis, what the hell is going on? Why is the DJ leaving? Did you cancel the payment?" Then came the venue manager freaking out, saying the card had declined. Finally, "Are you trying to ruin my life?" Then came the group texts, some from mutual friends, others from numbers I didn't recognize. "Girl, people are saying the party got shut down. Where are you? Mia is losing it. Man, this is wild. There's a live stream, 2,000 viewers already. Is it true you've been bankrolling her for years? That's messed up." I clicked one of the links, and there she was, center screen, pacing back and forth in her white cocktail dress, the one I now realized probably cost 4 figures, yelling at the venue staff, who looked like they had just about had it. Her perfectly styled hair was coming undone as she gesticulated wildly. One of the bartenders had packed up and was wheeling out a cart behind Mia, while a crowd of partygoers milled around awkwardly, some filming, others clearly debating whether to bail or wait for the cake. In the comments section, pure chaos erupted. "This the girl who scammed her sis for a party? LOL, she got exposed hard. Never seen karma land so fast. Is this the Venmo kid? Those screenshots are brutal. Her poor sister working overtime while she's popping bottles, trash behavior." I wasn't smiling, not because I felt guilty, but because I didn't feel anything at all, just empty, like I'd finally exhaled after holding my breath for years. Screenshots were flying across Instagram stories. A few photographers tagged Mia in blurry shots of her mid-meltdown, captioned with things like "when the check bounces" and "guess big sis said no." The DJ had posted a short video of himself packing up his equipment with the caption, "PSA, always get the deposit in writing. Hashtag messy night, hashtag no pay no play." An influencer I barely knew posted, "woman who had been there every time she needed help." I was the one being painted as the villain, the one who had ruined everything. It was the family card, always the fallback, always the shield for every selfish decision. But the truth is, family doesn't do this. They don't bleed you dry and then call it love. They don't laugh at your sacrifice and spit in your face when you stop. They don't talk about loyalty while practicing none of it themselves. Mia wasn't panicking because she felt sorry, she wasn't calling because she'd had an epiphany about her behavior. She was panicking because, for the first time in her life, she had no safety net, no one left to clean it up. The world had finally seen the version of her I'd known all along, and I didn't feel bad for exposing it. I felt free. The thing about people like Mia is they don't break clean, they splinter. They scatter, and when they can't pull you back with guilt, they switch tactics fast. By noon, her anger was gone, replaced by desperation dressed in half-hearted apologies. Look, I didn't mean what I said. It was a joke. You know I appreciate everything you've done, sis. I just got carried away. It was the pressure, everyone expected the party to be huge. Remember when we were kids and you promised Mom you'd always look out for me? I need you to look out for me now. These people online are destroying me. I'll pay you back, I swear, every cent. I just need help with the venue bill right now, they're being really aggressive. She tried to reframe it like she was the victim, like I had snapped on a good-hearted kid who just wanted to celebrate with her friends, like this was a misunderstanding rather than the inevitable outcome of years of exploitation. When I didn't respond, she brought in reinforcements. My phone started lighting up with messages from mutual acquaintances, some I hadn't spoken to in years. Hey girl, Mia's really not doing well. She's saying you've cut her off completely. Maybe you guys should talk privately? She's your sister. Whatever happened, is it worth all this fallout? Just checking in. Your parents called me, they're really worried about you both. Mia said something about financial issues. If you need someone to mediate, I'm here. Whoa, what's going on with you and Mia? The internet is going crazy with this story. Someone said you've been supporting her for years, that's wild if true. Fallout like this was treated as some misunderstanding I'd taken too far, as if they hadn't all stood their clinking glasses under those twinkling lights, tagging #MeAday while I was slipping out the back, tired, invisible, and expected. How many of them had watched her spend my money without a second thought? How many had joined her in viewing me as nothing more than an open wallet with a pulse? I spent the better part of that afternoon pulling threads. The utilities in Mia's name? None, all on me. The water bill I'd been paying for 2 years, the electricity account I'd opened when her service got shut off the third time, the internet package she'd upgraded to the premium tier without asking, all cancelled or transferred back to her name. Let her figure out how to keep the lights on without my credit card. The car insurance? Cancelled effective immediately. Let her try explaining to the DMV why her coverage lapsed. The backup rent autopay on her apartment? Gone. The streaming services? She'd have to sign up like everyone else. The monthly clothing subscription box? Terminated. The fitness app premium membership she never used? Deleted. Every leak she never even noticed was now dry. It was remarkable how many tiny financial drains I discovered once I started looking like a house with faulty plumbing, a drip here, a trickle there, until you're underwater without realizing it. Then I called the bank about the business loan I'd co-signed 3 years ago. Mia had pitched it as the start of a fashion consulting business. It's perfect, ally, she'd said, eyes bright with what I mistook for genuine passion. I know all the trends, I have the connections. I just need a little capital to get started. All she ever started was a website and an Instagram page with 5 posts, all selfies, no content. But I had the paperwork, and it gave me a clause: if one party felt the partnership was no longer in good faith, the loan could be called in for audit, which I did. It's funny, the guy at the bank sounded almost relieved, like he'd seen the red flags and had been waiting for someone to finally pull the plug. Miss Thompson, he said, we'll begin the audit process immediately. Given the circumstances, you might want to prepare for the woman who worked 80-hour weeks so Mia could post poolside selfies captioned blessed. I ruined her life by what metric? By forcing her to confront reality for once? By refusing to be her personal ATM? By expecting a 25-year-old woman to support herself like every other adult on the planet? The next morning, I made my final move. I logged into the shared family cloud account, the one Mia used without ever paying for, and wiped my access clean. I logged out of the connected devices, revoked every app permission, and pulled every shared file she ever piggybacked off of, the resume I wrote for her, the proposal deck I built from scratch, the spreadsheet that tracked bills she never opened, gone. I found photos she'd stored there, countless selfies, party pictures, vacations I'd paid for but never joined because I was working. There were a few childhood photos too, Mia and me at the beach building sandcastles, Mia on my shoulders at a concert when she was 10. For a moment, my finger hesitated over the delete button, but then I remembered her voice, just swipe your card like always. I deleted them all. She could find her own storage. Then I deleted the shared calendar reminders, call-in payment for Mia's lease renewal, transfer to Mia's checking, birthday follow-up, Mia's overdraft notice, check on Mia's insurance payment, book Mia's flight home for Thanksgiving. Some of these reminders had been recurring for years. I watched them disappear one by one, like weights lifting off my shoulders. Then I sat there, phone in hand, breathing. My apartment was quiet. Outside, the city hummed with morning traffic, people going to jobs, paying their own bills, living their own lives. I was one of them now, just me, no one clinging to my ankles as I tried to move forward. Then I opened my contacts, Mom, Dad, Mia, deleted one by one. Not blocked, not hidden, removed. Because I wasn't going back. Not for an apology, not for a funeral, not ever. People think walking away from family is loud doors slamming, screaming matches, final declaration shouted down a hallway. But for me, it was silent, surgical. No theatrics, just deletion. One by one, the lifelines Mia had used for years disappeared, not just the payments, not just the passwords, but the connection. I started with the practical. I revoked her access to the emergency credit line I'd once set up in her name, just in case. I never meant for her to use it. She used it 5 times in 1 year: bar tabs, last-minute shopping sprees at Nordstrom, and once, tickets to a music festival she didn't even remember attending. I found the charges afterward, $900 for VIP passes, another $300 for festival outfits she wore once. I called and closed the account, paid off the last few hundred myself just to be sure. Then I went deeper. Our parents had listed me as an emergency contact on Mia's health insurance. I called the provider and had my name removed. If something happened, they could call each other. I removed myself as the authorized user on her pharmacy account and canceled the recurring delivery service I'd set up for her prescriptions that she always forgot to refill herself. The more I scrubbed, the more I realized how deeply I had tied myself to a sinking ship. For a decade, I'd been patching holes she made without a second thought, and every time I did, she leaned back a little more in the raft, sunglasses on, waiting for someone else to row. I found an old folder on my laptop, buried in my documents, Mia's finances, receipts, transcripts, apartment leases, a fake resume I'd crafted for her when she said she wanted to go corporate for 6 weeks before giving up. There were emails where I begged landlords to give her another chance. My sister is going through a difficult time, but she's reliable, I promise. Screenshots of bounced payments I quietly covered. One message to an HR manager who'd asked for a reference. I told her Mia was resilient and resourceful. She quit the job on day 3, texting me that it was totally toxic because her manager asked her to arrive by 9 a.m. I stared at the folder for a long time, then I deleted it, not because I was angry, but because I didn't need it anymore. I wasn't keeping score, I wasn't waiting for the day she'd finally say thank you. That day was never coming. Then something strange happened. I breathed deeply, cleanly. I walked around my apartment, really noticing it for the first time, the couch I bought secondhand because I couldn't afford new furniture after paying Mia's car repair bill, the framed concert poster by the door of a band I loved but couldn't see live because I was covering Mia's rent that month.